Hello and welcome to Assemblies of the World with me, Anna Isabel, and I am joined today by my wonderful guest who is Hans Gunther Kern. Hello, Hans Gunther.
Hi there. Welcome everybody, and pleased to be here with you again, once again, many times, discovering the universe and our inner beautiful mystery.
Indeed, it is a beautiful universe and a mystery, but you are, I think, very adept at working with the mystery, if I can put it like that, because of the work that you do. And we've spoken before about the Holistic Living University that you have set up, which has extraordinary aspects to it. And my favorite, actually, at the moment, although I haven't been able to attend any of your in person festivals, is this reconnection with festivals that are no longer being celebrated, like Michaelmas, etc. And it's a beautiful thing. I absolutely loved the 12 Holy Nights and actually the Advent offerings that were there. So again, I haven't been able to attend any of the calls or participate in that way. But what is shared, I've been using for meditation purposes and just absolutely beautiful. That's my favorite thing at the moment. Um, I say my favorite thing, but my second favorite thing, or my equally favorite thing, if I put it that way, um, is of course the where it all begins with you, which is the connection with the earth itself.
Mm.
So I'm just going to let you, in a very short burst, remind those who've heard it before but had forgotten, and introduce to those who are new the concept of the Holistic Living University.
Well, the way I opened and the way you filled in a way very beautifully of describing what we're doing already in practice, so to speak, both inner practice and outer practice. And when you think of that kind of dynamic, where does it meet? It meets in the heart. It meets in the hearth. It meets in the art. It meets in the ear, in the hearing. It meets in the earth. And when you look at that word, it's all made up of the same vowels. Earth, art, earth. Um, it's something about the meeting point, the interface between the universe, which is all encompassing, and I would say it's what we think we see out there, but really is also within each one of us. And when we look at the way we meet with the world, it's through the heart, I feel, both in terms of when we communicate with people, when we are expressing ourselves with inspiration and full of enthusiasm and motivation. And at the same time, you could say, so what if the earth is a living being? I mean, we heard about the Gaia theory, and it was supposedly a theory, but the earth is a living being. It doesn't need to be a theory, it's actually real. If you start really looking at how the earth breathes, the way the earth goes through rhythms, the way the earth relates dynamically to the sun, the other planets, and the universe, and the way we go through the galaxy, it's all a dynamic interplay and a communication. But which beings are really the ones that connect with that, what we see out there as was what we call the universe, the all, the cosmos, is really the realm of the soil, the plants, and the animals that live upon it. We're kind of also participating in that, but we're the only self-conscious beings who can think about it, who can reflect upon it, who can remember, who can take things apart and put them back together, hopefully more comprehensive and more complete and embellished with that artistic heart impulse than nature can do it. A lot of people go, well, if we only wouldn't have humans, nature would be okay on its own. I got news for you. Nature is us, and the higher consciousness of nature is us and is God, or the goddess, or the universal wisdom, whatever you want to call it. So if we reclaim that consciousness in each one's heart, in each one's consciousness, or three centers of consciousness, which is the thinking, the feeling, and the willing, the action, where we really live spiritual truths and bring them into action through enthusiastic and motivated deeds, then that is the universe meeting the universes, the little droplets of God in individual consciousnesses, and each one is a universe. And if we reclaim that, that is what a university is about, because it brings the all, the everything, together with the all here in its differentiated ways in different cultures and different languages, in different expressions of nature, of different species of plants and animals, and different ways of cultivating in the different climatic zones. And to understand it, we need spiritual science to look into the invisible, how rhythms and dynamic interplays work, because that's spirit and the way the universe thinks and we think. We need feeling, developing our feeling realm of finding our way, and like people go with the flow. And we need to find that will to actually transform the earth. And everything that's matter, which once was spirit, we lift it back to spirit. And spirit is manifested by our will activity, and we create the new things that come through the ideas that we have. And those things need to be inspired through schooling. And hopefully it starts from the cradle, but as adults, we then can call it university. And it's a people's university. It's all encompassing. It doesn't discriminate if you had your A levels or, if you've got the money. Everybody is welcome to share, as long as you have an open heart to learn and share your authentic self. Then we have a university.
And what I love about it as well is that this is experiential. It's not about sitting in lectures and sitting and doing exams. It's about actually living, which is, I think, in the title, the Wholistic Living University. And so it's a beautiful concept, and it's more than a concept. It's in existence, and it fits in so much with the Community Assembly British Isles ethos. So it's a beautiful thing, because it's about that interaction between spirit and matter, really, and us, humanity, as a part of that, because it is a part of it. And if everybody thinks that nature left to its own devices is going to be creating wonderful things, well, yes, up to a point, but any person who's had to deal with bindweed knows that this is not perfect. And brambles will take over everything in a heartbeat and suppress other species. So there is an imbalance already there, with some plants taking over. And so it's not as simple as saying, oh, it's all our fault. Yeah, and no. It can be all our fault, but we also have the ability to do things better. So one of the wonderful things, of course, that you do is you teach people how to be in harmony with nature in terms of working with the soil. And I believe you have an amazing calendar that is now out for this year. Please tell us about that.
Yeah, I haven't really got anything much, but it's a PDF file calendar this year, which unfortunately through sickness and so on, it curtailed us from creating another beautiful third edition of our wall calendar, which was so well published and curated and presented by Flourish. If anybody looks back, either in flourish.eco or on the Biodynamic website. But this time, actually, I started very early preparing the calendar, because I thought this year we want to actually take people by the hand, day by day, through the garden. And that is on the outer aspect. And then month by month, which we had also in the 2024 calendar, which was the 100-year centenary calendar of biodynamics, celebrating 100 years of biodynamics in 80 different countries. since the inception of Steiner's lectures. So this monthly work is the inner work. And of course, you being an astrologer, you understand very well, for those who might not be connected with that, is that people don't realize, other than realizing maybe outwardly, that the quality of the sun changes from winter to summer. And maybe it's a bit different in spring, and the light's different, and the atmosphere is different. But if we could look back into the cosmic background again, in terms of the zodiac, which is the sphere, you could say, and the circle in which all our planets are circling around the Earth. And some of you might say, no, that's not right. They're not circling around the Earth. The sun is in the center. We're circling around the sun. No, we experience on the physical level, on the etheric, on our biological level, where we experience rhythms and changes in processes of life, and also in our dynamic part of the soul, we experience, just like children, animals, and plants, and the soil and the earth, that everything moves around us. And so what does that mean? That means that when the sun is, say, right now, in the constellation, I'm so sorry. Just turn that off. When the sun right now has just moved into the constellation of Capricorn, or I should say actually constellation of the goatfish, because we distinguish the signs of the zodiac and the constellations, then that's an earth sign. So we're working with the four elements. So a sun that shines with the zodiac constellation of the earth influences and forces streaming through the sun, being modulated by the sun. And by the way, for those who haven't realized yet, we got 4 planets in the goatfish right now, just have moved into the goatfish, almost aligned opposite Jupiter, which is in the constellation of the twins, and also opposite 3i Atlas. So we've got a huge alignment. And 2 days ago, the moon was there too. So we had 8 planets and 3i Atlas aligned, and all in this goatfish realm. Goatfish meaning earth being solid, being grounded, being also very discerning and very accurate in its perception. So a lot of truths that are now coming out. So that sun, now with moving into end of January, February, until 21st of February, roughly, because the constellations have different sizes. They're not 30 degrees like the astrological zodiac. Just imagine that the quality that I've just described, the sun conveys to the earth also. And usually what that brings is a lot of crystalline clarity through ice, through snow, through freezing, through reorganizing, bringing archetypical pictures of how the plants need to form and mature in their own right throughout the year. So it's a preparation for the plants all through the year, and the sun conveys that, and all the planets also, but mainly the sun, and how that will be literally drunk up and embraced by the earth, and then the earth will give it back to the plants in the growing season. So every month or every constellation has a different quality. In summer we go into Lion constellation when it's harvest time and ripening. So just imagine how wonderful that is, that we have different expressions that we don't notice. So when we have this monthly calendar where we meditate and give qualities of these different months, and you can meditate on that, then you are going into the garden, into nature, and into relationships in a different way, in a conscious way. And the beings, not just the visible, the invisible beings in the garden will receive you differently, and they will work with you in more harmony.
And just to clarify for everyone, if you're thinking, oh, hang on a minute, the sun's just gone into Aquarius. We're not talking about this from an astrological point of view. This is from an astronomical point of view. And because of the precession of the equinoxes, things are a little bit different. Both have equally valid merit. It's just that different tools for different purposes. And indeed, it is absolutely the case, which I always tell my students, yes, indeed, we may well be orbiting the sun, but that's not what we experience. What we experience is the changes of the seasons, and we experience from our perspective here on this planet, because, hey, that's all we've got. What it's like to feel like the sun is moving because it rises in a different part of the sky at different times of the year. And so to us, the sun moves across our sky. And so this is the note of difference here that we want to make, is that this is about our experience. This is how we feel it. So now coming back to earthy matters, and we have this calendar as to help us um, kind of decide what we're doing on any given day. What is the quality of this time of year in terms of what we should be doing? Because a lot of people are thinking the last thing I feel like doing is being out in my garden. Thank you very much. This is a time of rest, and that is absolutely true. And yet it's also, I feel, a time of preparation. And, you know, Imbolc is not that far away. It's 2nd of February. It's, in many traditions, the start of spring, or begin to feel like we're moving towards the spring. So what could we be doing here in terms of preparing ourselves and preparing the soil or preparing plants? What are we doing, Hans Gunther?
So, for those who have a garden or a little piece of land or some flower boxes or pots, it's a really nice time to prepare the soil. Now, it would have been good to do that the last 2 weeks already. I need to put the premise in front of it that, of course, with the kind of weather we had, it was sometimes very difficult. I mean, the first part of January was easy to get to the soil, but right now it's a quagmire. And literally, I'm moving house and I have to get trailers out of the garden and across the lawn, and it just leaves deep imprints, destroying the structure of the soil. So I would say at this moment, though, it would be a good time to prepare the soil and start opening up to these forces that I was just talking about in terms of the freezing and the weathering, and the freezing then taking care of all the soil-borne pests, be it fungal, bacterial is detrimental to plants, or be it grubs that will start eating the roots, or that start developing into insects when they go through their transformation and come into insect form. So all that, if we are able to expose that in the winter to the cosmic forces, opening the soil, either by putting forks in the soil and just lifting the soil back and forth a bit. We don't need to dig it, particularly if you've got a very crumbly and good garden soil. But if you start a garden and you have heavy soil and the soil is not too wet, particularly on clay soil or silty clay soils like we have around here in Sussex, it's a really good time of year to start digging. And when I say digging, we don't do the Victorian way of digging, where they basically take the spade and turn the soil upside down and bring the subsoil up, the dead soil up, and the living soil down, because they thought, well, that's the best way of getting rid of the living seeds, so we don't have weed seed competition, and it's the best way of recovering all the nutrients that have been washed out. But they started thinking very chemically and very just abstract, instead of going, well, the top layer is the living layer, so when we dig, we want to keep that on top, and the lower layer is the bad structure, and it's dead, and it's not as living and not so penetrated by life, so that needs to stay down. So I learned a special way of digging, which I highly recommend to learn, and we're going to do videos about this and put it out there. It's called the French Intensive Biodynamic Way, and basically you keep the layers intact. And as you disturb the soil right now with these new cosmic forces coming in, as I described earlier, with the new archetypes for the plants to relate to what's actual this year that's coming, they are prepared through the soil, drinking up that information as we move it. Just to give you an example, when water is being moved in vortices, it takes up information. So if you want to inform your water and pray and give it good impulse to nourish you in a healing way, when you drink water and you vortex it and pray, that's when it takes up the information. Same with the soil. The soil being moved takes up this cosmic information in our thoughts and our feelings that are hopefully very beneficial and caring. And if you leave it alone, it's not gonna. It's like a person that's sedentary. If a person doesn't move, think of actors. They learn their lines when they're walking because it's so much easier to absorb things when you're moving. That's when you remember. And the same happens with the soil. The same happens with everything. So I'm not partial to no dig. I'm partial to, when necessary, we move the soil, whatever it takes. And then we get these other benefits in place. And this is the time of year when we move the soil, both in the greenhouse, in the cold frame, outdoors. And of course, in the greenhouses or tunnel structures, it's really high time to do it, because come next week, it's already a good time, according to the calendar. And when I say calendar, the cosmic influences that are considered, to sow your first leaf crops for indoors, and then nurseify them for 1.5 months, to then plant them into your indoor greenhouse or cold frame space, what have you. Or the week after already is the time you can do your first sowing in incubators for your tomatoes and cucumbers and what have you, for indoor greenhouses. So you have an early crop. So for those who really want to have a long growing season, now is the time to start. And for those who just have an outdoor space, it's a really great time in January to vision, to plan your garden, to plan your seed order and all those things. All this you find guided through the calendar. When are the best dates to do that? Because the funny thing is, there are also moments when it's not good to be in the garden, because there's certain cosmic aspects, particularly when, if you think of eclipses of the sun or the moon, but each time that a planet goes through the ecliptic of the sun is a moment when there are detrimental influences, and that's when we can start reflecting and planning and doing our garden drawing, the bed drawings and the map for the garden and the seed orders, and reflect what worked last year and what didn't work. So this time is still very good to do that.
Yeah, it's a good time to plan, and I'm delighted that you're saying that I haven't missed the boat yet, because I have not been able to do anything since September.
Okay.
That's the last time, because of moving. It's been a very challenging time. So now we're looking at, we're talking about this and we're talking about the calendar, but I know that you're also doing some courses. So tell us about that.
So the calendar is really for beginners, if or if you don't want to necessarily do a course, discover things for yourself, but maybe follow a few instructions. And then we have the courses, which I started master classes this year, which are sort of for beginners, intermediate learners, people who might have been gardening before, want to brush up a bit on biodynamics, and when we use the preparations and working with the rhythms and the dynamic influences between the stars and everything and the planets. And then we have the full year course, which is really for intermediate learners and advanced learners who want to really dive deep and be accompanied throughout the year online, on WhatsApp also, where it's interactive, both with input on what you have to learn every week to implement in your garden at that time. So the whole course is designed just like the calendar around what's happening in the garden and when you apply it. So the online course really started with lockdown, when I couldn't teach practically anymore. I wanted to create actually a combination course, which we had the last 3 years, and I'm going to start again in March with that. Is you come online, you prepare in theory all the things you practice at home, and then once in a while we meet so we can actually practice things that are hard to explain online or even watching a video. You have to practice that and instruct and then show people how to do it in practice. So those are the practical workshops that we're going to start in March. And they will probably be here in Sussex. And then also in terms of practice, I offer people to invite me to anywhere they are. I'm happy to travel. And if you get a few people together, we can do it on your land, in your community, and learn about the biodynamic way or approach to growing your vegetables, flowers, herbs, and embellishing your biodiversity.
And having watched some of the videos of your courses, I highly recommend this, because um, I can't think of a more beautiful way of living than interacting with nature in such a deep way. So Thank you very much, Hans Gunther, for your time today. And thank you also for sharing this beautiful information with us all. Thank you.
Most welcome. And just
And
maybe an additional little snippet because you mentioned the festivals, and I just want to insist that everybody starts looking at their inner experience of the changing of the season, that they're very welcome, to participate in our different groups celebrating the festivals, both online and in person, because I think that is where the essence of a new life and a new paradigm, a new consciousness will be born. And then we can practice.
I think that's right. And the beautiful thing about the festivals too is the idea of community. So if people want to find you, how do they do that?
Easiest way is right now to just go online and put in www.whlu, which is Holistic Living University.org, and there you find all the different offerings that we have. We still have to update the website for the festivals and also the other courses that are coming and workshops like beekeeping, sacred geometry. We hope to have eventually astrology on there, and then we're going to also have movement, therapeutic movement, and other movement, conscious movement, and just extend also into water studies, water consciousness, because that's so essential besides the soil. And this year we'll see a lot of changes and diversification, because we need diversity, don't we?
The right kind, yes.
Yeah, the holistic and the integrative and the astrological and we call it astrosophical also in terms of Sophia, the wisdom that we bring it all together in a nutshell, that it all relates and can live together in harmony and collaborate.
Beautiful. So I'll be putting a link to that in the description box. And in the description box, you will also, of course, find a link to our website, the Community Assembly of the British Isles. And if you have not already joined and you want to create something that is different from what is being offered at this moment in time, then do find us and do join. And if you haven't already signed up to be a facilitator because you've been wondering what to do, just sign up, be a facilitator. All we're doing is exchanging information and helping people find their way to connecting. This is the time to unite and create beautiful communities. So join us. And until next time, goodbye.